It's wild garlic season. So if you are lucky enough to live close to somewhere where you could go and pick some wild garlic, I'd absolutely recommend that you do. And this is where I got to go and pick my wild garlic from. This is just above Polkerris in Cornwall. And as you can see, I had the most amazing view down through the woods to the sea and the beach below. So lucky. Wild garlic looks like this. These are a little bit wilted now because I picked them at the weekends. They've been in the fridge for a couple of days. So today they really, I've decided need using because can't afford to waste this. Precious, precious free food. And so I'm going to make some wild garlic pesto with some of the leaves. So what I've done is I've washed them and I've made sure that they are free of anything that isn't wild garlic, because obviously they grow with other things. So we had a few ivy leaves in ours which aren't edible, so you want to make sure there's nothing in there that isn't wild garlic leaves. Wild garlic also sometimes grows close to lily of the valley, which is poisonous, so you do need to make sure you've properly sorted through it. And because I'm using this for pesto, I've taken the stalks off. If I was using it to make a soup or something else where I was going to cook it, I wouldn't take the stalks off, I would leave them on. But for pesto, I've taken them off, washed it in cold water and given it a dry. So to do that, I just literally put it on some tea towels just to mop up some of the excess water. So this pesto does not have pine nuts in. This pesto, I am going to experiment. So I'm making this pesto with some pecans, some sunflowers seeds and some pumpkin seeds. A mixture. I'm using Parmesan. I'm going to use this much Parmesan, which is most of, the sort of standard size block that you get in Parmesan. I've already grated, here's the truth, right? This makes these real. I thought I'd start grating it, and then I thought, screw that. I cannot grate that whole block of Parmesan. So I'm going to put it in the blender, got the grating blade on. That's how much I have already grated until I decided that I could not be asked to do that anymore. So I've also got some lemon juice, I've got some extra virgin olive oil, which I'm going to use as the oil, and I have got some more of my favourite salt, but you could use any salt, any good salt, and my trusty blender. So I've also got this at the ready again, which is my coffee grinder. Working in a tiny kitchen here. This is my coffee grinder, my electric coffee grinder. So I'm going to pre-grind the seeds and the nuts in here just to make it a bit easier for the blender. You probably don't need to do that, and it depends on the power of your blender. Say you've got a Ninja or something, then or a NutriBullet, sorry, or a Vitamix, something like that. A really powerful blender, you won't need to do that. Okay, so I'm going to start by grating my Parmesan. Parmesan's grated, so I'm just going to get that out of here and pop it on the plate. So there you go, that is how much cheese that's just made. Okay, so the lovely thing about pesto, particularly homemade, is you know that you know exactly what ingredients are in it because it's what you've put in it in your kitchen. The next thing is it is quick and easy. This is a little bit more of a faff because you have to de-stalk the leaves and wash them and everything else, but it's worth it, and it lasts as well, pesto, and it is so versatile. You can add it to some cooked mushrooms, you can pop it on fish if you're going to cook it in the oven, you could just add it to anything. You put a blob on the top of some soup, you could spread it on crackers as a snack. Oh, that'd be so yummy. Really, you can use it for whatever you want. Okay, so the blender actually did a really good job. The blender did a really good job of chopping up the nuts and the seeds. So this is what we've got. That's how much. Okay. So I'm rubbish at measurements. This is not a recipe show. This channel is all about showing you how easy it is to make food that's really edible without the faff. So I eyeball everything. Most of the time, I eyeball everything. Personally, I think that unless you are, you know, a really high-end chef and you're looking at really high-end food, you don't need to measure stuff. And if you are baking, then you do need to measure things. But we're not doing either of those, so it's not really important, in my humble opinion. I'm sure people disagree with that, but you know what? Probably they're not watching this channel, they're probably watching the posh recipe channels. So that's my nuts and seeds ground up, did it absolutely fine. Okay, so that was pecans, sunflower seeds and pumpkin seeds. And I'd say if I had to measure, probably about a tablespoon of each. Now I'm going to put some salt in there. Not loads and loads because you've got the cheese, which is a bit salty, but it will need more salt than that. So again, I just use my hand. You could use a teaspoon. But again, probably about a teaspoon of salt I put in there. Okay, so next I'm going to add the cheese. And then I'm going to start adding the wild garlic. Okay, so I'm going to do it in bits because obviously it's going to need to break down. So here we go. Let's just smooch those in there. Don't want to overwhelm the blender. Wild garlic everywhere. Okay, and then I'm going to put in a good bit of extra virgin olive oil. If you think about it, a lot of this recipe is oil, so be heavy-handed. Okay. Lid on. Let's see what happens to that. I love it when it does that. You run it and it looks like nothing's going to happen, and you're just a bit patient and all of a sudden the magic happens. So this is what we have now, okay? And this is the joy of pesto. You can add extra bits if you don't think it's wet enough, for example. So I am now going to put a bit more wild garlic in there and a little bit more oil. And you just keep adding to it bit by bit until you think it's right. So let's pop the rest of these leaves in and let's put a little bit more oil in. And that wasn't a little bit, that was a big extra slug. So there we go. Okay, that's looking really delicious. So the next thing to do is to taste it. That's delicious. So good. It's like, because we haven't put any actual garlic in there, because we're using wild garlic, it's garlicky, but it's got this it's kind of sort of grassy garlic. That sounds bonkers, doesn't it? But it's got this lovely fresh green taste. My mouth is watering just talking about it. So I'm going to add some lemon juice now. So I've actually juiced a whole lemon with my lemon juicer into my mug, which is why it's in here. I'm going to add about half of it to start with. Okay. And let's just try it again. Use a clean spoon. Oh, I'm enjoying this. Okay. So I am going to add the rest of the lemon. So that's the juice of a whole lemon that's gone in there. Let's give it one more go. I'm going to use another teaspoon. I love how the bits I'm trying are getting bigger every time. It's really yummy. Okay. That's amazing. So Here's the thing, pine nuts are really expensive, and I used to think that you could only make pesto with pine nuts. Turns out you can use all sorts of things. I saw a recipe when I was looking at this for using cashew nuts, which is where I got the idea of using pecans, because I had them in the cupboard, pumpkin seeds and sunflower seeds because I had them in the cupboard, and they cost a lot less than pine nuts. So this recipe was wild garlic leaves, washed and de-stemmed, that I picked myself, extra virgin olive oil in a glass bottle. I always try to find it in a glass bottle. You do not want to be buying oils that are stored in plastics, really bad for you. Sunflower seeds, pumpkin seeds and pecan nuts. You could use walnuts, you could use cashews. Experiment, be brave. Some salt and some lemon juice and Parmesan. You can also use pecorino. Again, you'll see measurements for all of these things. It really doesn't matter. You can go a bit either side. It's okay to eyeball it. This is the message I want to get across, that cooking is it's like magic in your kitchen. Get the magic back into creating food that nourishes your body and that makes your taste buds sing and that actually makes you feel really happy. And then there's also, you get a dopamine hit, this kind of, our sort of motivator, feel-good neurotransmitter in our brain that's also associated with addiction. If we're when we are over-stimulating it, which we are eating all these ultra-processed foods that we do these days, because they're hyper-palatable, right? Hyper-palatable means super tasty, way more tasty than we have been designed as human beings to cope with. So our taste buds get numbed out, our brains get numbed out, we get addicted to these foods, we end up feeling crappy, nothing really sort of hits the mark in terms of foods anymore. That's why eating real food is so important. That's why getting back to cooking your own food is so important. Maybe it does take a little bit longer, but not always. And as you get used to doing this, and as you start to restock your cupboards with the foods that you just need, and you start to buy your food in a different way so that there's always the sort of food you need in your fridge, it gets a lot easier. So hopefully you'll give this recipe a try. And I am, just before I go, going to put some in a bowl so you can see it properly. And I'm not joking, I could actually eat this with a spoon. That is how beautifully green and gorgeous it is. It's delicious. Just sort of something else would be nice with fried eggs and a big dollop of this on the top. Oh, yum. So the next question you might be asking is, okay, so just made all of this pesto, quite a lot of pesto. And how long is it going to keep for in the fridge? And how on earth am I going to eat that much in one go? Well, here's a great thing. You can freeze pesto. So, you'll read online that you can freeze it in any container you want, and it's your choice. Personally, I tend to like to use glass. Okay, so I've got this really cute little jar. So I'm going to use that. And then this one as well if I need it. So these have been washed, and also I've just poured some boiling water in them to make sure that they're really properly clean. So a little pot of green goodness. So the next thing I'm going to do is pop some more oil just on the top. This will also keep in your fridge for, a good couple of weeks. So enjoy. If you've enjoyed this video, please click the subscribe button and give me a like. And also, if you feel like writing a comment, do. It'd be lovely to hear from you.